I always think about where am I going to start this recording because there's so many things to talk about. So I was like, let's just talk about the trip that I went on in 2015 to 2018 this year, 2018 September. Okay, so from October to September. Okay, to travel to a third world country, most people would never do such a thing. And then to stay there for greater than 2 weeks is always a difficult thing to do, to achieve. Most people are not able to cope with the things that the people who are living in third worlds have been coping with since birth. So I mean, imagine people born into a third world. What is a third world? See, this is another question to ask. So, I mean, who named this world third and put it in the position of 3, and and for what reason and why? If we want to look at the whole word of the whole meaning of calling a place a third world. So, being in the third world, we're talking about living in a state of extreme poverty in the senses of it. The extremist degree of poverty is what most would associate, not having the basic standard of living, the basic parameters of what civilization would entail on a constant basis. I'm talking about 24/7. You can depend on the water running. You can depend on electricity or light, some kind of energy coming into the buildings that you walk into, air conditioning. If it's in some nations, heaters. If it's in other nation, I mean, when you're walking into a building, so you can set this temperature, ideal temperature for people to not be stressing on the weather in the area that they just came in from. So the outside. So outside being the geographical location that someone is in, depending on if it's too hot or if it's too cold. So when we're talking about, what we're talking about, a third world country, we're speaking about electricity, no light, okay, no water. I mean, we're talking about high parts per million in total dissolved solids in some areas. Drinking water. Okay, you're talking about drinking water. You're talking about bathing in the water, cooking with the water. I mean, what's the total dissolve? What's inside of the water that people are drinking? And then how can this affect their mental state, spiritual connections, and the physical manifestation that the individual is moving around and living this so-called life that we're taught, that people are being taught from childhood, okay, from the schools, the colleges, the universities, that this is the lifestyle we're supposed to live. So, or we're supposed to be in. So this is the mindset. This is definitely the mindset that's being promoted here in these third worlds, okay? But coming from the Americas, you're not able to see these. You're not able to see it because, for the most part, most people in America have been living in this illusion that they are living in the first world. But what is true is that the first world is really based on how the sun shines and rises, and where, what kind of projection that the people are able to manifest in the world that they find themselves present in, because of the the perfect type environment that's been created, just for being in this place that we're calling the third world. But the situations there has been set up to not allow the people to obtain what's genetically written. What I'm saying, these things has been written in the genetics to not have this poverty state of mind, state of being, state of consciousness. It's written inside the genes. So the only way that we can come to a conclusion and see that that this place people have accepted this topic of a third world and been living it, manifesting it in their life, not knowing that genetically they have been programmed. It has been programmed to live at an all supreme state. So this state is what people were deprived in, and been fruitful and been multiplying in this state, and procreating that state into the physical matrix that we know it as, we see it when we step into, or when we rise, grand rising. So this becomes something that's not aware. This is not something that's conscious. It's not a conscious state to most people, because people have been put in this artificial matrix, to accept the artificial matrix as its reality. But it's not. And the only way to be aware of it is to literally have time to be out in nature again, being able to reconnect one's mind, to nature's matrix. So I mean, one of the beautiful things about being on the continent is the sun always shines, and the sun, having all this energy, this abundant energy, solar Ebo, just pushing forth, everlasting energy. So it's like, if you can be outside in nature without the buildup of plaque and mucoid plaque, and from the meats and the dense fuels and foods we've been eating, if you're not stuck on that plane, then the sun wouldn't irritate your being. It will give to your being in a fashion that's orgasmic. It's original. It's powerful what the sun can give to you if your body is at its most purest state. So it's like doing cleanses is necessary. It should be a priority in one's life, not just to do the washing of the body on the physical plane, but to internally, on the external physical plane, but into internally, be extracting the layers of, negligence is a beautiful word to relate to this. It's a huge negligence that we put to our daily duties, or at least 3 months. We should be cleaning our internal organs at the minimum 3 months. You go inside and you drink the proper liquids, condensed liquids, fiaqua, with distilled water and restructured water, magnetized water. I'm talking about it in plotter. These are the things that we were supposed to be putting into our cells. Magnesium, secret energy. I mean, I'm talking about just the things that can assist us to raising our vibrations. But when we're living in a third world mentality, it becomes the direct opposite. It becomes artificial, and artificial the artificial way or life becomes what it is that we're chasing. So yeah, I just wanted to get this quick video out, as the sun is preparing its repositioning, as actually as Earth is repositioning itself, in the position where the sun shines, because the sun never sets, all depending on who's looking. So I'm just delivering the message as is, and man, I'm excited to be with you, and we'll have to do this again. Wholeness.